Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we are working on page 4. Page 4 and 5 are going to be mirrors of each other, and I've done this page before in other albums, but I like it, so I'm doing it again. We've got 2 flaps and a pocket, and it's going to get attached to the pocket page. The pocket is going to be like a side slot pocket, and then I've got 2 flaps on the other side. So let's get started by adding the pocket. This pocket is 9 by 3.5, 9 by 3.5. Okay, so just so you see, I've located the pocket. The side pocket on page 4 is going to be on the right-hand side. And then on page 5, it's going to be opposite. This pocket will be on the right-hand side. So now we're going to add these 2 flaps. And I've talked about this before. One of the ways you can add your 2 flaps is to stack them on top of each other and then add them to the page. But I don't like to have this double hinge here. So the other way to do that is to take your 2 flaps with your 2 score lines and then take one of the flaps and reverse it. So we're going to attach this flap actually to this flap, and this flap will be the only one that's actually attached to the pocket page. Now when you're attaching it, you want to make sure that you are completely clear of your score line here so that it'll lay as flat as possible. So I'm going to butt it in here, looking top to bottom to make sure there's no overlay. And it's really hard to see, white on white. And I almost did that wrong. I was going to attach it to the hinge. It actually needs to go this way. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So we have 2 score lines. Now we're going to flip this one over and it's going to get attached right here. And I almost attached it upside down. And I'm going to tack one corner down and come across. There we go. Okay, so that's how it's attached. So here's your top flap with its hinge. And then here's your second flap, and its hinge is rested on this hinge. Now we're going to remove this and attach it to the pocket page. And you could also do it the other way if you want to stack your hinges, that's fine. It's just a slightly different method. Okay, that's in. Okay, now we need to get some magnets on it to keep everything closed. And I'm actually going to use 2 sets of magnets, one to hold the top flap and one to hold the lower flap. I'm going to use my pencil to draw a quick line down here to show that my magnet needs to be on the other side of this. So I need a magnet here, and then I'll find my opposing magnet on the other side. I'm going to use my 5/8 inch tape to cover my magnet. I love white, but man, it is hard to work with. Now, I'm going to show you what I did. I think this is too close to the edge. My paper is going to come about that far, so I'm actually going to adjust my magnets so that this one's a little bit lower. That's just too close. I think I'll have a buckle here on the designer paper. So I just want to point that out. It's not that big of a deal, but I mean, it might not show, but why risk it? I don't want to fight it when it's time to put the designer paper in. Okay, so that means this needs to be adjusted too. All right, that's good. That's better, I think. Hopefully, it'll shift it just a little bit. And that is all I think all we're gonna need. Nope, it needs to go that way. Yeah, yeah. So that moved it at least 1/8 of an inch, maybe more, and that'll be plenty. Okay, there we go. And I don't need this mark here anymore. Although I know designer paper is going to cover it, I went ahead and erased it. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing here. We need a magnet here and a magnet here. And I'm going to burnish this into place. I can't remember, but we are working on winter tails. Go ahead and say that. Now, winter tails and Stamperia products themselves in general don't really lend themselves to a lot of color blocking just because of the way the patterns are. They're much more like collage. So there's already a whole lot going on any given page. And then to try to layer on another one, it makes it a little bit harder. So I don't do a lot of color blocking within a flap with Stamperia products or Ciao Bella. But graphic, each one of the patterns is so different and so strong, it makes it color blocking a little bit, in my mind, a little bit easier to do. So I said we were going to use 2 sets of magnets. There's one set and there's our second set. So that's page 4. And now we're going to do page 5. And page 5 is a mirror, meaning the pocket is going to go over here and the flaps are going to go on this side. This is not, and I forgot to tell you the size of the flaps. I'm sorry. So your small flap is 4.5 by 8. Your large flap is 6.5 by 8. So 6.5 by 8 square ½ inch, 4.5 by 8 square ½ inch. Of course, you're going to do the same thing for page 4. And this is 9 by 3.5, and you're going to score a ½ inch on 3 sides. Sorry about that. I'll make sure it's in the banners, but that's it. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, there's your pocket page. You want to apply the vertical pocket to the left-hand side of page 5. Here we go. Perfect, perfect. And then we are going to add these, and as I showed you before, you start out with both of your flanges going the right direction. You flip this one over and it's going to get applied just like so, and then this flange goes to the pocket page. So that's it. So you want to make sure that you steer clear of your hinge area. Do not go over the fold. Come close to the score line, but do not go over it. Otherwise your flap will be kind of a bubble. It's going to want to do that anyway, depending on the weight of the paper you're using. So by crowding that score line, you could just magnify it. Not the end of the world, but not ideal. Okay, that's in. Now we're going to take this and apply this double flap to the right-hand side of page 5. Okay, And then after this, it's all about decorating. Okay, I'm going to burnish this down a little bit. You know what? I got it on crooked. I'm not going to burnish it. I'm going to fix it. You guys may have seen me do this before. I'm going to try to lift it with my spatula. If it doesn't want to release, then I'm going to quickly use my undo and straighten this out. And it's tearing, so I'm going to use my undo. Okay, it's just too crooked. I can't live with it. Okay, I'm going to give that a second to do its magic, and then we're going to lift it off. If you haven't used this, it's a lifesaver if you're applying anything with tape. It doesn't work with glue, but it does work with tape. Worth every penny. It's kind of worth its weight in gold. You can save a ton of paper. In my last video, I showed you guys that I put my pages in upside down, and that is not the first time I've done it. I've done it before, but this can save your album, essentially. So if you don't have it, get it. I don't think we carry it, but it is possible to get. And I think you can find it, I think I need a little more on Amazon. I should talk to Julie. One of the reasons we don't carry it is because it's hard to ship, and we wouldn't want to combine it with anything else. Just in the event that it opens in your package, it could make a real mess. So we kind of steer clear of that. I'm being impatient and I'm rushing this, but really if you give it a few minutes, it'll do most of the work for you. Somebody had asked about videos that show how to fix common mistakes, and kind of my philosophy on this channel is to never edit out a mistake and to always show you what I do to resolve it. We all make mistakes, so there's no reason not to share that and then have you guys learn from it, as well as to talk you through some of my design decisions, why I size things certain ways, and you know, just kind of my thought process behind that. Okay, that actually tore. Now, I can still use this and apply it back, but I have to wait for it to thoroughly dry. So I'm going to have to set this aside, and then when I come back, we'll go ahead and reapply it. If I try to put tape on it right now, the tape won't adhere because of the undo. So it has to thoroughly dry. But once it is dry, you can add tape and use this flap again, so you don't have to waste your paper. So I'm going to give it some time to dry, and then when we get back, we will we'll add it back to the page. So it'll be, I'll be gone for a little while because it doesn't dry very quickly. I'm going to give it at least an hour to dry in this warm temperature, and then we'll come back and apply it. And then we'll be done with the interactive components for page 4 and 5. Thanks, everyone. Okay, everyone. It's had a chance to dry, and it turns out that the tape on the side is still tacky. So I'm not going to adhere any tape to the hinge. And then this little strip that was lifted with the undo, I just replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down, and I just wanted to share with you guys how that process works. In case it ever happens to you, you'll know what to do. And I'm going to try to focus and get this down straight. There we go, much better. Okay, now we're going to add our magnets. I put a little reference line here, so I know that I believe I want my magnet to go toward the edge of the pocket here so that it's further down on the lip on this side. So let's put one here. There we go. There we go. And then we're going to use another set of magnets between these two flaps. Okay. Okay, and that is page 4, which opens to the right, and then page 5, which is the mirror image, opens this way. Okay, that's it for page 4 and 5 interactive components. It's time to decorate. Let me get my papers in order, and when I come back, we'll start decorating. Hey everybody, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we're on page 4 and 5, and I've got part of the A sides laid out, and I want to go ahead and get them glued down so I don't accidentally repurpose them. And then we'll work on the B side. So we're going to get started with this, and I'll probably take a break and line up the rest of my papers and get going. So let me tell you what I've got here. This is from the 8x8 collection pack. This is from the 12x12. And this is from the 8x8, just so you know where my papers are coming from. Some collections, it's easier to keep track of that. With, I think, Stamperia, it's a little bit harder. But again, 8x8, I'm double checking, 12x12 and 8x8. So I kind of went back and forth. I just like the larger scale on this one. And I think it's pretty. I think it's very pretty. And my glue is clogged. It's been really warm here the last few days. My craft room sits on the southwest corner of the house, which is the hottest part of the house. So all my craft stuff has to take a beating from a heat perspective. Definitely something to consider when we move. I'm going to take the northeast corner. Whatever room it is, it's mine. And that'll help with the heat. I love this pattern. I think it is so pretty. Okay, so that's our small flap. And then these are going to be color blocked. So let me tell you the size of this. This is just under 4 inches, so 4x8, or trimmed out to fit. So it's 7 7/8 by 4. 7 7/8 by 4. And then this last piece is trimmed to fit the pocket, and so that's 7 7/8 by 2 7/8. So started with 3x8 and then just trimmed down an 1/8 inch on. And that's, I don't know if I got cut off, my phone rang. So I started with 3x8, and then I just made it an 1/8 inch shorter and narrower. And that is where I came up with the size for the pocket. And we're going to repeat these patterns on page 5. Okay, so there's all our A sides. I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for page 5. And part of the reason that I'm doing this now is I don't want to cut into my patterns on accident. So I don't like to leave my papers floating around for too long. Get them down as soon as I know what I'm using. That way I don't accidentally trim it and cut it down for some other part of the book. I do keep things in a Ziploc bag with the page number, but even that, sometimes I'll get things jumbled up. So it's best to get it glued down, and then I can't make that mistake. Again, this I started with an 8 by 4 inch. I just trimmed it down a little bit. And this one, again, comes from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And here we go. Okay, and this is going to go here. Okay, there we go. Page 4, page 5. When I come back, we'll start working on the B sides, and of course the rest of the A sides for the second flap. So I'll be back shortly. I gotta go do some more trimming. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we're working on Stamperia Winter Tales. And this is page 4 and page 5. And last time I sat down, we did the A sides, and we're going to work on completing the B sides and finishing up these 2 pages. So I'm going to set this aside. Let's go ahead and take a look, and I'm going to do my best to remind you guys where I'm getting the patterns from, whether or not it is the 8 by 8 or the 12 by 12. This is from the 8 by 8, and we're going to use the same pattern as down here, so 8 by 8. The pattern's very similar in the 12 by 12 version too, so it doesn't really matter, but that's just what I chose to do. I was trying to preserve my 12 by 12 sheet because I think I want to fussy cut some of these poinsettias out. Until I'm just about due for some glue. So these are going to be mirror images, page 4 and page 5. So this 8 by 8 that I'm using, I basically split it in half so that I could use, I should have trimmed that down a little bit. It's very close to the hinge, but it looks like it's going to work out. Half of it, 4 inches over here, and the other 4 inches on page 5. Okay. Okay, and I am actually not sure, but let me look at something real quick. This pattern's a little harder to tell. This is from the 12 by 12. 12 by 12. Okay, so that is the 6-inch panel. Okay, and there's the inside of the short 4-inch panel. Okay, and then here's what we've got, or here's what I've trimmed out for the inside. So I trimmed these out last night, and I'm kind of going back and forth about the order. I think I I'm not real sure. I'm going back and forth, like I said. So I trimmed it out this way. So which way do we like better, guys? I think I like it better this way. Okay. All right. So we're going to go with that. So I think I forgot to ink this. So let's do that real quick. And I've mentioned in other videos, but I just like to knock the white core off. And then when you're using a white base album, it helps make a crisp line between the cardstock and the designer paper that you're laying down. So I have to think about this for a second. I'm not sure if there's an up and down. All I know is whichever way I put it in, I want to be consistent on the other side. So I think I'm going to put it in this way. It's really not directional, so it's up to you guys. Or is it? I think these fans should go up like that. Okay, so we'll put it in this way. All right, now I've oversized it just a smidge so that it's going to slide into the pocket ever so slightly. Actually, well, that's how we know. That is, by the way, this is from the 12 by 12, and this is the right orientation. So we'll go with the orientation of the pattern on the other side. Okay, now one of the things that I've learned over time is when you're trying to slide something into a pocket, if you put glue all the way to the edge and then you have to back it out, you run the risk of gluing your pocket closed. So I'm stopping short about 1/2 inch. I'm going to tuck it in and then back it out, and then I don't have to worry about dragging glue back out. The fact that it's slightly tucked into the pocket is going to hold it in place anyway. Hopefully that all makes sense. There we go. And it's probably 1/16 of an inch in the pocket. Maybe a little more than that, but not much. Just enough that when you go to tuck something in, it's not going to get caught, and it's going to actually help guide it into the pocket. Okay, let's double check dry fit. This is from the 12 by 12. And it looks like I need to trim it down just a little bit, so I'll do that real quick. I'm going to put a couple of marks here. Okay, looks good. Let's get some ink on it. And I'm using the powder puffs, and I'm using the color mahogany if you guys are interested. We have some in our shop. Oh, and by the way, I mentioned the undo in my last video, and I used it again in this video, and I talked to Julie, and we are going to start carrying undo in our shop. So if you guys don't have this and want to give it a try, we're going to have some. It'll take us a couple of weeks to get some stock. I think we have 1 or 2 right now, but if we don't have it when you first check, come back, and we will be carrying it moving forward. I love this stuff. It saves you a lot of frustration and a lot of paper. And that bottle has lasted me going on 3 years, and I make 2 albums a month. So that lasts a long time. If you only make maybe a dozen albums a year, you're gonna have that. That'll last forever. I use it less now, but in the beginning when I first started making albums, I used it more often because I made more mistakes. In the beginning when I first started making albums, I did everything with tape so that I could undo it. And then I started using glue as I got more confident. And then of course the more albums you make, the more economical it is to use glue. Tape's slower and more expensive. But you can always change your mind with tape. Not possible with glue. Okay, let's walk through real quick. So this is page 4. I love this. I love this pattern. I'm really liking this page. Okay, I've used this page many times before. I just really am drawn to these double flats. I don't know why. Okay, looks like this one's ready to go. Let's verify the orientation real quick. And that's it. That's the way we want to put it in. And I think I'm ready to ink it. It's always amazing to me. I'm reusing a couple of flap designs. One of them, the first page, is from Birdsong, which is one of my favorite albums. And it's always amazing to me just how different it looks when you change up the paper. You know, nothing's different about the flap design. It's just different designer paper. It really changes the whole look. Of course, there's only so much you can do with flaps. I mean, a flap is a flap, right? So you're definitely going to find it that you repeat flap designs. There's really no way of getting around it. What really changes is the paper. Gosh darn it, I pushed down too soon. It's too far in. And too far up. Wow, I gotta start over. Finally got a break in the weather. It's a lot cooler today than it's been, which is nice. And that usually means that my glue doesn't dry as fast. So hopefully I get a little bit more time to work with things. Man, it just doesn't want to go in straight for me. Okay, I'm going to do something different. It's not working for me. So I'm going to put it down on this edge, and then I'm going to use my spatula to tuck it into the pocket. And maybe cut it a little too short. So that's making it a little difficult. Okay, there we go. Got it. There we go. One way or another, we're going to get it in, right? Okay, so I think I need to trim this one down. Yeah, it's a little too wide. Okay. Okay. This is such pretty paper. This is very popular. I don't know if you guys have it or not, but this collection was pretty popular when it first got released. And I'm really enjoying it. Okay, I think these are inked, so I'm guessing I already dry fitted. Yes, it looks, did I? Did I? I'm going to take a little bit off. It looks very tight. Let's see how I did. Well, it looks good, but it looks crooked, so let me see if I can straighten that out. Okay, and then here's our last piece, which looks perfect. Okay, here's page 5. And we'll look at these side by side. Okay, so right here we have from the 8x8, 8x8, 12x12, 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 and I'm not sure, but I think it's the 8x8. Pretty sure that's the 8x8. Okay, that's it. That's it for page 4 and 5. Okay, I'll be back soon.